Greetings, I'm Alan Ross and welcome once again to one of my mini tutorial videos covering various aspects of photography. Today I'm going to talk about scanning a black and white negative. I get frequent requests regarding how I scan a negative, what sort of scanner I use, and what sort of software. Well, I'm currently using an Epson Vive 850 scanner with the Epson software, but there are, of course, other scanners and software available, all very fine, I'm sure, and they, for the most part, will offer similar settings and options. First, why do I scan my negatives? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One of the big reasons is I can't remember the last time I made a traditional contact print in the darkroom. With scanning, I no longer have to spend arduous time adjusting darkroom exposure and paper contrast to see what is on my film. I can do this in mere seconds using the scanner. And also, using the scanner, I can scan at a high enough resolution so that I can really get into the negative. I can look at its detail, its sharpness. I can really get into it in ways that there's no way I could do with a traditional contact sheet. So in a few minutes, we're going to actually scan a negative. But the first thing I want to talk about is a bit about the hardware and scanning software settings. So the scanner I use is an Epson 850 Pro. I had a V700 earlier. The 850 is a little bit more advanced. It has an LED light source instead of one that needed to warm up when scanning a negative, so it's a little faster. The 850 and the 750 scanners were also able to wet scan film, which was really kind of nice from the standpoint that that you could use special film holders to scan a negative and therefore ameliorate some of the problems with dust and Newton's rings, like the scanners frames like these. But one of the problems with some of this, with the scanner frames that come with the scanner, is that particularly with the 4x5 and to some extent the smaller ones, is that the scanning area doesn't let you see the entire negative. It crops into the image area a little bit around the edge. And when I'm scanning a negative, particularly for reference, and I want to look at the whole negative, I want to see the whole negative, or at least see film area around the whole image, so I know exactly what I've got. So personally, I don't use the frames very much. But at any rate, not using the frames, the scanner also does come with what they call an area guide. Now, the 850 has this, this little plastic thing that you could set at the top of the glass here. And it has a little, about a ½ inch window at the very top of the glass so that the scanner eyeball can evaluate the brightness of the lamp, of the scanning lamp. But beyond that, it just has a couple of little arms sticking down from it to show you about where the edges of the scan area are. And it doesn't show you that it doesn't scan the full size of the glass. It only really scans an area about 8 by 10 inches, which, working with an 8 by 10 negative, that's fine. But I went a little step further here. My 700 scanner had an area guide that was a little bit more distinct than the plastic one that comes with the 800 series. And so I made a kind of a parody of that one with even a little bit more accuracy. And I made this one out of plastic that shows that the scanning area is a little bit off center. It's a little bit more to the right side of the scanner. And it shows the full scanning area. And then when I place that into the scanner, it shows me exactly what the scanning area is. And taking that one step further, I also cut out pieces of old 4-ply mount board scraps, and using my mat cutter, I'll cut a little window inside one of these scraps. Now the scrap itself is cut exactly to the same size as the opening in the scanner area guide, so that I can, away from the scanner, I can mount the negative in position on the card, hold it down with a piece of tape, and then put it into the scanner like this. Now, there's one thing I've done since these photographs were made, is I've also added a small little cutout here at the bottom of the window so that I can actually see a gap between, a distance between the clear film base of the negative and the pure scanner white glass, so that I can really evaluate the density of the film base. So that's pretty much it for the looking at the equipment. Now we have the scanner software to talk about. So the Epson scanner software is pretty much suits my needs. There are other fancier software packages. There's ViewScan, there's Silverfast. I really haven't discovered any need to use one of these. For me, the Epson scan works just fine. So let's go talk about what we have here to adjust on this. Now, first of all, it gives you, when you get the scanner, it gives you the option of full auto mode, home mode, and professional mode. As photographers, I don't think any of us would be interested in using anything other than professional mode, because that gives us the control of how the scanner deals with the negative. So the next one down the road is the document type. Down here, we have reflective, we have film with a film holder, and we have film with an area guide. Now, I've already talked about the film holders and why I prefer to use the area guide as opposed to the film holder. So this is the way I usually set things up. And then the next one down, we have the film type. We have positive film, we have color negative film, and we have black and white negative film. Well, I'm going to be scanning a black and white 4x5 negative, so why aren't I going to be using the black and white negative film mode? Well, the problem with that is that if you select black and white negative film, it scans the negative, but the scanner itself scanner software inverts the image so that what you see is a positive image. And my whole reason for wanting to scan the negative for my own reference is so that I can actually see the negative. I can see how much exposure I have in my shadow areas beyond the film-based fog densities. So I want to see a negative. So that being the case, I select positive film. So the next one down is the image type. We have black and white, which would be for scanning a document. 8-bit grayscale is what I'm going to be using for this little example. It really can record virtually all of the densities on the negative that I'm interested in seeing. The 16-bit grayscale, if I were scanning a negative for probably maximum quality, maybe to do a very large digital print or something like that, I probably would be inclined to use the 16-bit. But for our purposes, the 8-bit's going to be just fine. The 16-bit also has a significantly larger image file size. So the next one going down is resolution. They come with a bunch of standard resolutions here. 300 is what the window is set for right now, but we're going to be using 600. 300 is fine for documents and so on when I really want to see everything very clearly. It's what I would use if I were scanning an 8x10 negative. But for 4x5 negatives, I want to be able to blow the negative up a little bit bigger, maybe make a really nice 300 DPI print of it for reference or evaluation. And so I will scan at 600 DPI for 4x5. For roll film 35-120, I'll be more likely to use the size of the 1200 DPI. So beyond that, we get finally down to the unsharp mask mode. The scanner it's a very fine machine, and it does scan all by itself very nice and sharp images. I do like to have the unsharp mask click in a medium mode. There's a low and a high level. But I just like to have a little bit of a head start on my sharpness, so I do select the medium. The configuration button down here doesn't really offer any options that I particularly use on a day-to-day thing. You can check that out yourself. So that being said, let's go on to taking a little look at a little summary of what we've got going here. Now, what I've got here is, this is just kind of a reminder of some of the things that I checkbox off on the scan mode here. Professional mode, film with the area guide, positive film, 8-bit grayscale. I'm going to use 600 DPI resolution for this one, and the unsharp mask. So with that said, let's go think about scanning a negative. What we're just going to do is close this out, and we're going to move on to our Epson scan window here. Now I already have the negative taped into the carrier, and it's now in the scanner. So I'm going to click preview. And it doesn't take very long to do this. And now we can see that I can see the entire negative. And now down below here, we could also see my little window where I can barely see the difference between the film base density and the scanner white. So already there are some things. Well, first of all, if I'd like to see this a little bit bigger, I can just drag to make the scan window a little bit bigger if I want here. And if I want to see the file bigger, I can come over to the marquee and select the area I want to enlarge a bit. And so I'm going to put the marquee there, and I'm going to hit zoom. That's going to preview this again. Every time you preview, any settings you've made for tonality adjustments get erased and you start all over again. Okay, so now we're seeing this quite a bit bigger than we did at first. So I get a little better chance to kind of take a look at what we've got going here. All right, no, this image is one that I did back in 2008 in China in the Longshan Mountains, the Yellow Mountains of China, and I call this one Pathway on the Edge. And it's one that I've filmed with digitally before, for now 12 years, and for whatever reasons, I've never gotten around to making a silver print from it. So I'm going to be doing that. And part of the reason I'm scanning this is this is going to let me have the foundation of a scan that I can use for making a digital mask if I decide in the course of my printing I need to do that. So it also gives me a chance to remind myself about all the tonalities. So the first thing I'm looking at this is it doesn't look like I'm seeing as much of the tonality of this film as I would like. So I'm going to come over here to the histogram window over in the scanner setup here, and I'll bring this over here. And we can see already by this left-hand part of the histogram, the dark areas, that it's already cropped into my highlights, the dense parts of the film more than I would like. So I'm going to grab this icon here, this little handle, and I'm going to move that over all the way to the left. So now I can see into the sky in the distance better than I could before. Now I still wish I could see a little bit more distinction between the film base and the clear white here. So I'm going to come over here and grab the right hand handle, and I'm going to drag that off to the right. And now I can definitely see more distinctly the difference between the clear film base and the clear part of the scanner. And it looks like I've got somewhat marginal exposure down here. It looks like I've got zone 1s and zone 2s over in here. Zone 1s, even though there's density on the negative, usually prints as the black, but I will be able to see some definition in here. And one other thing I'm looking at is I'd still like to see a little bit more separation into the distance here. So I'm going to grab the middle handle here in the histogram, and I'm going to drag that a little bit over to the left. Now I can start to see a few little clouds in the distance here, some other nuances. In this stage of the scanning, I'm not interested in having accurate tones. What I want here in looking at the scan of the negative is I want to see all the information on the negative. So that's why I make these adjustments the way I do. If I want to see the positive image, I can do that after the scan in Photoshop, just duplicate the negative layer and then invert it, and then I can play with a positive image. We'll take a look at that in a minute. So now that I've got my tones here set nicely, I think I'm pretty happy with what the situation is here. So I'm going to come over and click scan. So on the scan window, we have several things here. We have what kind of a file do we want it to scan to. We have JPEG, PDF, and so on. I sometimes use a PDF if I'm scanning a document. If I'm just doing a quickie scan of something and just want to get it off quickly, well, then I can use a JPEG. But generally, I like a image that's a little bit more durable, like a TIFF image. So then I'll type in the title here. So this is Pathway on the Edge. don't need all that applicant on edge. Now leave a little space there so that the start number, which is irrelevant, isn't just bumping right into the title. Then we have an upper hand here, we have location. Right now it's going to, by default, scan this image to the desktop, which is just fine for me here. Otherwise, I might think of filing it to a specific, having it sent to a specific folder. I can easily do that. But I think we're all ready to scan here now, so let's take a look and see what we get. So the 850 does come up to business, get into business a little bit quicker than my 700 did with the LED light source. It doesn't take any warm-up time. So when I click scan, it pretty much starts right away. With the 700, I used to have to wait a little bit. But even so, this is a lot faster than what some of the higher res scans used to take in the old days. They take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes for a real high res scan, which were high res by those standards, but not by today's. All right, so let's take a look at our image here. All right, so now we have the image that we have just scanned. And what I can do now as an example is I can take the background and I can duplicate that and then invert it. And now this looks kind of blah. Well, yeah, I didn't scan the negative for maximum tonality in the initial scan, but now if I want, I can come up to levels here and I can scan until I see the first black. So I'll hold the Option or the Alt key down and drag this over. And those are the first blacks coming in. They're about the same time as film base. And now the first whites, drag those over in here. No, still no white. There's the first whites, those little clouds in the distance. I'm going to leave those off. Now I can bring this down, the midtones down, dragging over here. Well, maybe I don't want to do that so much in levels. I'll back this off a little bit. But now I can click OK. I can, if I want, I can come over here into curves. I can bring the highlights down a little bit if I want. So that I can actually do a fair amount of experimentation with the image, even with just a quickie scan like this. So this is really all you need to know to be able to make a really nice scan of your negatives. I have one little follow-up thing to do with another quickie tutorial, and that is I'm going to show you how to make your own area guide for the Epson series scanners, so that if you want to have one of these and you want to know just what your scanning area is, I'll show you how easy it is to make yourself a custom area guide. So anyway, I hope this all helped and have fun.